Hello and welcome to Bust or Trust, a kids' mystery podcast. I'm Tiernan.
And I'm Athena. We unravel the world's greatest mysteries with help from you, our chief detectives.
We present all the best evidence and then ask you to decide. Which team are you on?
Are you a myth buster like me?
Or are you a myth truster like me? We look into some very strange stories from around the world. No mystery is too big for us. For example, we measure the speed of light, but just what is the speed of dark?
Oh, that's easy. It's the time it takes for you to turn off the light and then get safely under the covers.
Hang on, but then if, like me, you sleep with a nightlight on, then does that mean the speed of dark is really, really slow?
Yep. It's also why it's hard to measure, as no one can see what they're writing down when all the lights are off.
We tell you at the end of the show just how to get in touch so you can let us know if you're on Team Buster or the best one, Team Truster.
So, chief detectives, get ready to take notes and start putting together your case while we have a quick word with the grown-ups. Bust or Trust is now available on Story Button, a device that makes it easy for your kids to listen to our podcast without using a screen device.
Story Button connects to Wi-Fi so that all our episodes are automatically available. To find out more, click the link below in the show notes.
The case.
Whoa, that is so weird.
What is? Everything seems very normal to me.
Well, Athena, you won't believe this.
Just because I'm Team Buster doesn't mean I don't believe in anything. There just needs to be good evidence.
Well, okay, I think that somehow earlier I saw a past vision of our Bust or Trust HQ.
Oh, no, you were right. I don't believe that at all.
But I did. There were different chairs in here that looked really old, and there was some recording equipment on the table, and there was a man who looked like he was dressed in very strange clothing.
Tiernan, I told you yesterday the delivery man was coming today to bring in new chairs and new microphones. He wasn't a ghost from the past. I think his name was Dennis.
Ah, that explains it then. Dennis is amazingly see-through looking, though. How does he do that?
I know, it's impressive, isn't it?
I just thought I was having an experience like Charlotte Ann Mobley and Eleanor Jourdain, the subjects of this week's case of Les Fantômes de Versailles. That is French, don't you know, for the ghosts of Versailles. The strange claim by two very well-to-do English women that in 1901, on a visit to the Palace of Versailles in France, they had a vision of the past and saw a lot of 18th century ghosts.
I think there are many explanations, actually, none of which are ghosts. But how about we tell our chief detectives what we do know?
Go for it, while I work out if ghosts can do deliveries of chairs.
Yeah, they can't. This mystery takes place in the very famous Palace of Versailles, a French castle quite close to Paris, otherwise known as Paris.
Ooh.
Merci. The palace is well known for being the home of many of France's kings, until the French Revolution in 1789, when people stormed the castle to abolish the monarchy and form a republic. A republic is a type of government where people choose representatives to make decisions for them, rather than having a single ruler or monarch.
The Palace of Versailles is now a very popular tourist attraction for its incredible design, sculptures, fountains and gardens. Oh, and of course, it's filled with ghosts.
Tiernan, Les Fantômes de Versailles incident took place in 1901, but no one knew about it until 1911, when a book called An Adventure was published in France by authors Charlotte Ann Mobley and Eleanor Jourdain. In the book, they claim that on a visit to the palace, they saw the gardens just how they were over 100 years before.
And not only that, they saw a number of historical figures too, including the last Queen of France, Marie Antoinette.
Now, the story caused quite a sensation across the country, but was also laughed at for being nonsense, which sounds about right.
Well, that's up to our chief detectives to decide. Did Charlotte Ann and Eleanor see ghosts from the 18th century or not? Let's Spectre, get it? Piece of evidence number 1.
First piece of evidence.
The first piece of evidence is the account from the two women and what they claim to have seen. The year is 1901 and Charlotte Ann Mobley and Eleanor Jourdain have been taking several sightseeing trips around Paris by train. It's the 10th of August, a beautiful summer's day, and the two women arrive at the famous Palace of Versailles. But they found that the palace itself wasn't that interesting, and after a quick tour inside, decided instead to stroll around the gardens near a smaller building called the Petit Trianon.
That means Little Trianon, and a Trianon is like a very fancy villa.
Merci beaucoup, mon traducteur de français.
That means thank you, my translator of French. De rien.
Charlotte Anne and Eleanor realised they had got lost in the vast garden, but as they looked around for their way back, they started noticing something very strange. Everyone they could see was dressed in old-fashioned costumes dating back to the late 1700s, including two very dignified officials dressed in long greyish-green coats with small three-cornered hats. The women felt a feeling of dreariness coming over them, and as they looked around, everything seemed like a moving painting. They described seeing a woman holding out a jug to a girl in a doorway, and another woman shaking a white cloth out of a window. And by the kiosk, a man in a cloak wearing a large shady hat who made them feel very uneasy. In their book, Eleanor wrote, "The expression was evil and yet unseeing, and though I did not feel that he was looking particularly at us, I felt a repugnance to go past him." That means she had a strong feeling of disgust. Then, when they got to the Petit Trianon, they saw a woman drawing on a sketchpad by the trees. They thought she was a tourist until they saw her beautiful dress, which was very old-fashioned, and that made Mobley and Jourdain wonder if she was somehow a vision from the past. When they returned to the palace, everything seemed back to normal, and none of the other tourists they spoke to had seen anyone dressed up in 18th century clothes or a lady drawing. When researching, they found that the lady who was drawing looked just like Queen Marie Antoinette, and the creepy man looked exactly like one of her friends. So Charlotte Anne Mobley and Eleanor Jourdain were very certain they had seen a snapshot of the past.
That must have been a very strange experience for them. But French historian Philippe Julien looked into Eleanor and Charlotte Anne's story, and he thought it all may have been a misunderstanding. Julien was writing a biography of a famous French poet. A biography is an account of someone's life. While researching, Julien found out that the poet loved throwing fancy dress parties at the Palace of Versailles, where everyone dressed up like they were from the 18th century. These parties happened a lot around the time Mobley and Jourdain visited. So it's possible that the two women accidentally ended up at one of these parties instead of experiencing something spooky.
They sound like fun parties to gatecrash too. I wonder what the party snacks were. I bet they didn't just have a bowl of cheese puffs. But if it was a party, that doesn't explain why, when Charlotte Anne and Eleanor returned to the Trianon on several occasions, they couldn't find the same path they took before, and some of the landmarks they remembered seeing, like a bridge they crossed, were nowhere to be found. It wasn't until 1903 when an old map of the Trianon from the late 1700s was discovered. This map showed the bridge and all the paths they had taken. Historians confirmed that the way the two women described seeing the Trianon matched exactly how it appeared at the time.
Yes, that is strange, but as we've mentioned before on Bust or Trust, your memory can change depending on who you're talking to and how long it's been since you experienced something. Some critics believe that Mobley and Jourdain learned about the bridge after their visit and later convinced themselves they had actually seen it, along with many other details of their experience. Their book was published 10 years after their visit, so their memories could have changed quite a lot by then.
But even if Charlotte Anne and Eleanor's memories had changed, that doesn't explain piece of evidence number 2.
Second piece of evidence.
The second piece of evidence is that since the Mobley-Jourdain incident, many other people have spotted the sketching lady, or as she's thought to be, Marie Antoinette's ghost, at Versailles in the palace too. Athena and I took a little trip to the Petit Trianon at the Palace of Versailles a few weeks back, and this is what we found. Ooh la la, what a fancy place. Beautiful French windows that stream the sunlight in, a shiny green and white marble floor, and majestic oil paintings and golden chandeliers in every room.
It is fancy. I could definitely stay here. They will let us stay here, right?
I'm not sure I'd want to. It's too spooky.
We'll see.
Time to put my tour guide hat on. Well, here we are in La Petite Trianon at the Palace of Versailles. Did you know, Athena, that Marie Antoinette would often escape here for a break from her royal duties? Over here in this bedroom is where she would have slept. Do you feel that?
Nope.
Well, many visitors feel a cold spot or see a white mist around this part of the building.
Oh, that could be to do with the drafts or the place's cold air gets in from the outside. It is a very old building.
Well, how about over here, in this room, where the Queen would often spend leisurely time reading and relaxing in the very comfy-looking white chairs embroidered with flowers, looking through the window to the gardens below. But do you see anything peculiar?
Again, not really, apart from you leaping about like you're in a French palace. Oh, actually, that's not weird. We are in a French palace.
Well, exactly. Many visitors to this room reported seeing objects moving by themselves, and on occasion, glass items have smashed without being touched.
That is strange. But again, it could be to do with the very drafty winds, or the heat, or them being very old items.
And now follow me to the conciergerie within the main palace. It used to be where the palace caretaker would live, but after the 14th century, it was turned into judicial offices, which is where law was made and crimes were sentenced. Part of it was also turned into a prison. And here is the very prison cell where Marie Antoinette spent her last days before being executed by guillotine. And again, there have been hundreds of sightings of her sitting at a small table in full 18th century dress and powdered wig. And of course, she has been spotted in the gardens many a time, as has the ghost of King Louis XVI. Thanks for coming on my tour, Athena. Please give me a nice review on TripAdvisor.
Maybe 2 stars if you're lucky.
Hey!
That palace was amazing though. Back to the ghost sightings. There are lots of explanations for why people think they see ghosts. It can be a trick of the light. It can also be because they have heard there are ghosts in the palace, so they convince themselves they've seen them. This doesn't back up what happened to Charlotte Anne Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain.
Well, maybe you think that because you're not as tuned into seeing paranormal things like Moberly and Jourdain were. I will explain in piece of evidence number 3.
Third piece of evidence.
The third piece of evidence is that Charlotte Anne Moberly seemed to have a bit of a talent for paranormal experiences. After the incident at the Palace of Versailles, both women were said to have had a number of strange encounters. One of those was when Charlotte Anne visited the famous art gallery, the Louvre, in Paris in 1914. While there, she insisted that she had seen the ghostly presence of the Roman Emperor Constantine. Moberly said he was a man of unusual height, wearing a gold crown and a toga. No one else in the gallery that day could see him.
But why would the ghost of a Roman emperor be at the Louvre in Paris?
Well, to see the famous painting of the Mona Lisa, probably. I mean, that's why everyone else goes. And then when you get there, it's really tiny and everyone's in the way, so you can't see anything. At least a ghost could hover up to get a better look, or walk through everyone else.
Yeah, actually, it would be much better going to all these popular tourist places as a ghost. You'd never have to queue again. But the problem with just spotting ghosts is that there's no evidence if it happened if no one else can see it.
Yeah, and I don't know if it would make you feel happy having everyone thinking you were strange and never believing you. Eleanor Jourdain definitely suffered from that. After the incident in Versailles and their book, she went on to become head of St Hugh's, one of the largest colleges that make up Oxford University. During the First World War, she was convinced there was a German spy hiding in the college. Her behaviour made loads of staff quit their jobs. And then a few years later, while Jourdain was being investigated for the way she ran the college, she died very suddenly. Spooky.
It's not that spooky, is it? It sounds like Eleanor Jourdain was under a lot of stress, which would have been really bad for her health. Or, maybe the hidden spy finally got her.
Yes, Athena's on Team Truster this week.
No way. There is no evidence for the spy or the Roman ghosts. It's all just hearsay, which we can't take as proof. I still think they stumbled on a fancy dress party and got confused.
OK, but how on earth could anyone mistake a fancy dress party for ghosts? I just can't imagine it's possible. Hello?
Yay! I'm here! The party can start right now!
Welcome, bienvenue to the gathering of souls.
Yeah, love it! Wow, you've really committed to the theme. Cobwebs everywhere. Oh, it's weirdly chilly. I love it! I bought some nachos and lemonade. Where shall I put them?
Lemonade? I haven't had that in centuries.
I love your costume. You've made so much effort. You really look like a ghost.
I am a ghost.
I love it. I wish everyone did fancy dress like that. It's so much more fun when everyone really stays in character. I mean, you, look at you. It looks like your head has actually fallen off and you're having to carry it. Amazing.
It was chopped off in the French Revolution.
Wow, you've really thought this through. And you, how have you made it look like you're floating? No, don't tell me. Save your costume making secrets. I'm just well impressed. I am floating. It gets very boring after a while. I can't believe I just threw on this old cat costume. Oh, I should have tried harder.
I don't remember cats looking like that when I was alive. That was hundreds of years ago. Maybe they've changed.
Right, who's giving me a tour then? I want to get dancing. Party!
I suppose I will. Please excuse the ectoplasm. We do try to clean it up, but there's somehow always more.
Wow! Is that a piano playing itself? I want one! I can't stay here! That is the most terrifying thing I have ever seen! Run away! Run away!
I'm surprised it took that long. What scared them off? Was it the skeletons with the axes, the mummy, the werewolves? No. When I showed her the bathroom, she said only a real ghoul would have no toilet roll for a party, and that was that. But you are a real ghoul. I know. I did try to tell her. Nachos, anyone?
Yes, please. How do we eat them?
Oh, drats. It is nice to hear about a party where everyone is always in high spirits.
You know who'd be the perfect guest at any party though, Tiernan? That's right, our chief detectives.
Definitely. I don't need to invite them to Team Truster though, as I'm sure they're already there.
I don't think so, but it's up to them to decide. And now it's time for them to put together the case. Did Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain see historic ghosts? Or did they just get confused at a fancy dress party?
Let's recap the evidence.
Evidence recap.
Piece of evidence number 1 is the accounts of Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain and what they witnessed on their trip to the Palace of Versailles in 1901. They saw a number of people in 18th century dress and someone they think was Marie Antoinette.
But they could have accidentally just walked into a party being held by a local poet who was famous for having extravagant events where everyone wore fancy dress.
The second piece of evidence is that a number of other visitors to the Palace of Versailles have seen or felt strange things, including seeing the ghost of Marie Antoinette.
But many of these things could be explained by the palace being a very old building and having many drafts that could cause cold spots. It could also be that visitors have heard there were ghosts at the palace, so they convince themselves they've seen one.
The final piece of evidence is that both Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain had paranormal experiences after this event, so maybe they were just very good at spotting strange things.
But there's no evidence for any of the paranormal encounters they had later in life either, so it's impossible to tell if any of them actually happened.
So now we're handing it over to you, Chief Detectives.
What do you think? Are you Les Fantômes de Versailles Mythbuster?
Or Les Fantômes de Versailles Myth Truster? Get in touch and let us know your thoughts and, most importantly, which side you're on. It would be spooky for any of our chief detectives to choose anything other than Team Truster on this case.
Oh, they are definitely going to ghost you. It's Team Buster all the way. Send us your voice notes with an explanation of why you're a myth truster or mythbuster when it comes to whether Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain did travel through time on their visit to Versailles, or if they just needed an excuse to crash a cool party.
All you have to do is ask your grown-ups to help you email us your voice notes or thoughts to hello@bustortrust.com.
Tell us your name, age, what you think all the evidence means, and please make sure your grown-ups give us permission to use your voice notes or emails in our next episode. You can also send us a question on Spotify Q&A, but please get permission from your parents and don't include any personal details so we can publish them safely. We won't always be able to use all of them.
But we do love to hear them. And here are some thoughts from you lot, our chief detectives, on the last few episodes.
Hello, my name is Alfie. I am 8 years old. I'm from Ireland, and I am a myth truster because it could have been about Area 51 and also about the last episode. Bye.
Oh, wow. So, Alfie, you think it could be Area 51 or UFOs. This is very exciting. Thank you so much for listening, Alfie. You are doing some top chief detective work. But Alfie also sent us this message about our episode on mermaids.
Hello, my name is Alfie. I'm 7 years old, and I am a myth truster because there's a lot of sightings of the world seeing mermaids, and I'm not sure if sea cows are even a thing.
Alfie, I really like your reasoning, but hang on a second. In your last message, you said you were 8, and in this message, you say you were 7. Athena, do we have an incredible mystery case of a boy who's getting younger?
We've got 2. We've got the boy who gets younger with every voice note and our sea cows real.
Whoa, I think these may have to be our next cases.
We have the best listeners. We make a fantastic team.
That is true. And if you enjoyed the show, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify or Amazon Music or wherever you listen to your podcasts for more great episodes. We love to hear what you think, so please do rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It helps more detectives find, bust or trust. We'll even read out some of the reviews on the show.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time for more Bust or Trust. Hey, Tiernan, why didn't the ghost like going to parties?
I don't know, Athena. Why?
Because he had no body to go with.
That is such an old joke.
What joke? I don't know what you're talking about.
The joke you just said about the ghost?
I really don't know what you're talking about, Tiernan. I think you may have just glimpsed the ghost of a joke that died in the past.
Athena, you don't even believe in that.
Don't I?